The National Director of Public Prosecutions, the Deputy National Director of Public Prosecutions, Willie Hofmeyr, will conclude his testimony at the Mokgoro Enquiry in Centurion this morning. During cross-examination yesterday, he argued that the NDPP ignored crucial evidence to prosecute former President Jacob Zuma in the spy tapes matter. The inquiry is probing the fitness to hold office of suspended senior NPA advocates Mokgoro Enquiry and Mokgoro. Hofmeyr says his firm stance against how things were done at the NDPP nearly got him fired. He made allegations of political interference and lack of action against corruption cases under Jiba's watch. However, Jiba's legal team fired back, arguing that Hofmeyr had no credibility due to the role he played in dropping charges against Zuma back in 2009. He told the Mokgoro Enquiry that he now lives in regret over the decision. Now, for the latest on this story, our SABC reporter Sipho Stirman is live from Centurion. A very good morning to you, Sipho. The NPA's former deputy NDPP, Willie Hofmeyr, will again take the witness stand for cross-examination today. It's expected to be his last day. What can you tell us?
Well, a very good morning to you and our viewers at home. We are actually coming outside the Mokgoro venue here. That's because the inquiry started a bit early today to give more time to Willie Hofmeyr's cross-examination. You will know that he's been on the stand for 4 days. We were actually making a joke about it, saying that it's like a cricket match where it takes up to 5 days. And at this point in time, Hofmeyr is on day 4, continuing, of course, with his a cross-examination. And really what has happened is that yesterday he said that he had regretted or he lives in regret over the decision to drop those corruption charges against President Zuma. He says that perhaps at the time, and this was back in 2009, that they should have perhaps looked at the merits of the case and they should have looked at the facts of the case and then taken a decision. But he says part of what influenced the decision to drop the Part of what influenced the decision to drop the charges against the President Zuma was because of the spy tapes saga. We know, of course, that former NPA head Willie Hofmeyr was involved in those spy tapes saga, allegedly a plot to try and come against former President Jacob Zuma at the time, leading to that Polokwane conference. So there was a lot of matters that were at stake, politically speaking. There was the Polokwane conference, there was the spy tapes saga, alleging some sort of political interference against President Zuma at the time. So he says that when they took that decision, it was a very difficult and intense time politically, so they had to consider all those factors. However, now with the benefit of hindsight, looking back, they believe that the right decision would have been to continue with the prosecution of former President Zuma.
So what can we expect today?
Well, today it's really basically continuing of this cross-examination. I think what Hofmeyr has done, Jezra, is that when he gave testimony here, he came with a lot of weight because, well, Hofmeyr is the current deputy head of the NPA. He holds the same position as Jiba. Of course, we know that Jiba is on suspension. The NPA has about 4 deputy heads. So Hofmeyr painted a picture of an NPA that was politically captured, an NPA that was paralyzed, an NPA that was not doing its job, moving against the corruption under the leadership of Jiba and Mokgoro. So his testimony was very much hard-hitting. But now what Jiba's legal team has done, they have turned this around to say, actually, the one person that is politically captured here is you, Hofmeyr, because you took that decision to drop charges against President Zuma, and as a result of that, President Zuma was able to assume power at the union buildings in what now is called 9 wasted years, if you listen to current political speak. But certainly, following that decision by Hofmeyr and the NPA leadership at the time, what happened is that President Zuma then had a clear path to assume power. So they're saying the one person that has taken decisions that have far more reaching political implications for this country was Hofmeyr himself. And as Jiba's team, of course, continues to turn this around to saying the fact that now Hofmeyr comes here to say, well, in hindsight, we should have looked at the facts only, it doesn't help. And they're saying that perhaps it should be Hofmeyr himself that is charged with misconduct, because they're saying that some of these allegations against Jiba, they pale in comparison to the political magnitude of the decision back in 2009 to withdraw the charges against President Zuma. So you have a legal team of Jiba here trying to turn things around, turn the table around on Willie Hofmeyr here, saying that perhaps Willie Hofmeyr should not have even come here to testify because of his history, he's not a credible witness.
Sipho, you were speaking to a very confident Zola Majavu the other day, who was saying that based on all the testimony that has come up so far, his client was comfortable that they would come out looking good out of this process. What is the sentiment from the Mokgoro camp?
Well, the Mokgoro camp shares the same sentiment because they both face the same charges, that is of misconduct and mishandling high-profile cases. And certainly the reason that they're feeling confident is because up to 12 of these witnesses that have been called, they've been giving their personal opinion of how things were run. There is no factual, there's no paper trail. There's no paper trail to prove political interference. There's no paper trail to prove that, well, Jiba did, block certain cases in favor of certain politicians. Yes, she may have made questionable moves, and perhaps some of the decisions she's taken have raised eyebrows. But then, how do you prove that as a matter of fact? So that's why they are sitting comfortably, because there is no one that has come here that has provided, paper trail, that has provided facts to say this is what they've done and I've got the proof. It's people with their own opinion saying that it should not have been done this way, it should have been done this other way. So basically now you're getting a battle of opinions as to what is the right way of taking certain procedural decisions. And so that is what this inquiry has to decide, as to which of these opinions that have been presented before it will take in as hardcore evidence. But certainly, yes, Jiba and Mokgoro have taken questionable decisions. But is that enough to get rid of them from the NPA? Especially now that we know the NPA is looking to clean its image. We know that a new directorate within the NPA is now being established as well, with the new leader, Shamila Patoy, looking to regain the trust of the NPA. Does it need Jiba? Does it need Mokgoro there, who come with a lot of baggage? Whether, of course, it's been proven as a matter of fact, but they do have a lot of baggage. Their names have been involved in a number of scandals. Currently, they are also before the Constitutional Court, trying to remain in the role of advocates. We also have a former CEO of Bosasa, that is Angelo Agrizi, that could possibly come here. We expect him on Friday. He is going to be giving testimony on the allegations that the two had received bribes between 10,000 and 100,000 rands, monthly bribes, to block possible prosecutions of Bosasa officials. So there is a lot of matters, controversy that is hanging around the two of them, not yet proven to be a matter of fact. But the fact that they have this cloud hanging over them, does that bode well for the NPA going forward? Well, that's what this inquiry has to decide.
Sipho Stirman in Centurion covering that story for us, the Mokgoro Enquiry, quite ably so, if I might say so myself. The question of the day